Aaron, how would you characterize trading post-Powell? I think it's been so interesting to watch the sectors and components of this market pullback that we've seen. I guess it goes back to that old saying, that old adage, you can't fight the Fed.
Yeah, nice to speak with you, Dan. I think describing it as interesting is an interesting way to put it. It's been quite volatile, quite eventful, of course. And what I think this tells you at the Feds is that the Feds had a real communication problem. I mean, for the market to react so dramatically to what was actually a relatively benign speech, I think tells you that the Fed has really struggled with describing what it intends to do. It's very hard for me to get my head around how the Fed can make the declaration that monetary policy is going to remain tight for some time on the one hand, but then on the other hand, say that they're going to look at incoming data and adjust as necessary. Those two just don't seem to jibe with one another. And so I think the Fed has really created a lot of uncertainty with its communication over the course of the last few meetings. And that's what the market's grappling with right now.
One thing that Powell did say was that the next CPI print, and of course the jobs data at the end of the week, is probably going to help determine whether or not we see 50 or 75 in September. What's your view?
That's a very interesting point, because you could argue over the last few CPI reports, the PCE, which is the Fed's preferred gauge, of course, those have actually been heading in the right direction here recently. And so if you relate that back to Powell's speech the other day, I mean, we've actually had some positive data. We've had some signs that inflation may have peaked, seems to be moderating, and yet there seems to be this hawkish tone all of a sudden. And so I would expect that data continues to head in the right direction. I do think that we're probably past the worst of inflation numbers. If you look at energy prices, they've been coming down. If you look at supply chain issues, they've been improving quite a bit here recently. You still have a lot of pressure on service prices, that's true, but I think overall inflation ought to be headed in the right direction over the course of the rest of the year. And so I think ultimately that should mean is that the Fed actually has an opportunity to do less than the market might be fearing right now, but that doesn't seem to be the message that they're sending in some of these recent speeches. But as we've seen over the last few months, that can change quite a bit from meeting to meeting.